trying first to duplicate Ignacio Chapela's results, which we did, and now going a step further and identify this problem.
This is an issue that is a bit contentious because we didn't want to in any way jeopardize our genetic heritage. The first thing is we didn't want that to happen. Whether that is going to have other consequences, well, that's a matter of debate. The fact is, those sequences were not supposed to be in those corns, and they are now. And that's a big problem for us.
What happens when you introduce into these areas a single genotype, the one industrial crop, that preferentially passes its genes into the progeny? What happens is basically you crowd out that diversity. And this in the long term is a major threat to food security. Not only for those people who live there, but also for us, also for our industrial production of food. If we do not have access to those genetic resources, we're going to be facing challenges that we are not going to be able to solve.
It is not just genetically modified corn that has raised patenting issues in Mexico.
Current international system of patents does not protect in any way traditional knowledge, and we have had a number of problems in Mexico related to that. I think there are 3 or 4 applications for patents for tortillas. Like it was a new thing, like somebody had invented tortillas, which of course have existed for 3,000, 5,000 years, we don't know. First of all, some people will debate, and I think it is a worthwhile debate, if life should be patented at all. And that's a discussion that humanity as a species hasn't done properly. And it is a sort of pending homework, something we need to do.
By the year 2003, the U.S. had sold millions of pounds of GMO corn to Mexico for less than the cost of growing it. Around the world, resistance was mounting against the U.S. exported genetically modified crops. The loss of corn exports to Europe is worth around $300 million a year. This has only compounded the farm crisis in North America.
On the one side of the farmer, there's the oil and natural gas companies and fertilizer companies, seed and chemical and machinery companies and banks. And then the farmer is literally in the middle of an agri-food chain. Downstream, there's processors, railways, grain companies, restaurants, packers, etc. And what's happened in that chain is each link, with the exception of the farm link, is being dominated by fewer and fewer, larger and larger corporations. Those huge corporations that face little competition are able to extract extremely large revenues and profits out of that chain and leave very little for the family farmers. And what the family farmers do get is quickly snatched away by chemical and seed and fertilizer companies who themselves have tremendous market power.
Farmers are not the ones making the money. There's money being made on both sides of the farmers, but not the farmers.
When you put $1.50 on the counter for a loaf of bread, that money then moves through the hands of the retailer. And these are $10 billion corporations with only one or two competitors. And the miller that makes the flour can do the same thing. The grain company that sources the grain. And by the time it gets back to the farm, there's only a nickel left. And of that nickel, you've got those powerful input suppliers on the other side who can take that nickel right out of the farmer's pocket.
I just did a study of the economic costs and benefits of BT corn. The official USDA statistics show that the cost of producing a bushel of corn is about $3.20 or $3.40, and the net return to the farmers maybe $2.20. So they're losing $1 on every bushel. And one might ask, well, how is a businessman, if you're losing $1 on every unit that you sell and you're growing 140 per acre, so you're losing like $140 an acre, how can you stay in business? And the answer is government subsidies.
Subsidies support the most widely grown crops: corn, wheat.
Government subsidies.
Subsidies support the most widely grown crops: corn, wheat, cotton, and soybeans. These are the crops that the industry has targeted as the first GMO crops.
So if you're an agribusiness company producing inputs into a market, and especially inputs that are going to be more expensive, it must be reassuring to you to know that regardless of how big the gap is between what the farmers get from the market and what it cost them to produce, the government's going to be there to make up that difference.
In 2002, President Bush signed one of the largest subsidy bills yet.
Although it's certainly not labeled the GMO seed rebate, nonetheless, it's part of what's keeping farmers interested in these costly production systems.
This results in every American taxpayer paying a personal subsidy to the agricultural biotech industry. The United States subsidizes its crops. Europe subsidizes its farmers. And Canada and Mexico subsidize neither.
Farmers that are producing grain right now are quite clearly losing money on every bushel. The prices are below the cost of production. On a lot of farms, families deal with that by one or both spouses taking an off-farm job. And the irony is they bring that money back to the farm and use it to pay those input bills. So you literally have the case where small family farmers and their spouses are working off-farm and subsidizing Monsanto and chemical companies, fertilizer companies with that money.
If you talk to people in agricultural circles about, well, what's the important skill of farming? It's marketing. It's taking full advantage of the government programs. It's dealing well with your banker and all the people that you lease land from and managing equipment well. And, those are the skill sets. It's not their understanding of the biology of their soils or their production system or the traditional skills that one would think about. What it takes to be a farmer in America today has really changed, and the skill set of farmers has become divorced from the managing of this biological process, which we call food production. In rural America, people value community and neighborliness and friendship, but as farms get bigger and more homogeneous and more of the control of the capital and the management decisions gets moved to St. Louis or Minneapolis or Kansas City, and you've really just got sort of hired hands out there on the farm, there's an erosion of the richness of the community that shares that space, and a lot of things get sort of lost as a result of that.
My family has been enduring a living hell since this began. I am sure this is what led to my father's recent heart attack. He has been physically and emotionally shattered since this began. It has been heart-wrenching to watch our reputations be destroyed in our own community over something we did not do. I believe that the patenting of crops that extend to the progeny, in other words, the seed that a crop produces, like soybeans here, which cannot be kept controlled or kept separated on our farms, is nothing short of insane.
A lot of people in the industry try and paint a picture that, listen, 60% of our food is, processed food has some genetic engineered, product in it, so forget it, it's over. Your resistance is useless. Well, this is nonsense. The vast majority of our foods, the wheat, the rice, our fruits, our vegetables, are not genetically engineered. The vast majority of the food we eat is not genetically engineered. But right now, probably the key issue is the current controversy over genetically engineered wheat.
Even some of the farmers that thought they might like genetically modified canola originally are saying no to genetically modified wheat. We had the Canadian Wheat Board sitting at the table with Greenpeace and the Canadian Health Coalition, the Council of Canadians, and a whole bunch of farm organizations. And they had a news conference to release a letter to the Prime Minister that said, we don't want GM wheat. And that letter was signed by an additional 200 organizations.
Genetically modified wheat is a very, very serious concern for us up in North Dakota, and we have 124 acres of GMO wheat planted in research plots throughout the state. We don't know where those research plots are, although that's proprietary information. So there's already the potential for contamination. If a custom combiner combines some GMO wheat and then goes to combining some non-GMO wheat, the contamination is going to occur. When it does, we'll lose our markets. It's that simple.
What Monsanto told our legislature here in North Dakota was that if they attempted to put a moratorium on the introduction of this wheat, they would pull all of their research dollars out of our state and our universities,